Hi there, welcome to the channel or welcome back. My name is Angela and I'm so glad that you stopped by today. As you can tell, I'm not in my garden today. We're going to do something a little bit different. I have found historically over the years since I've been doing this channel that once garden season kind of stops and kind of winds down for the fall and winter, I tend to go like kind of dark on the channel, like almost all through the winter until spring comes around again, with a couple of exceptions. So what I thought might be fun to do is to kind of share with you guys how a gardener, or at least this gardener in particular, spends fall and winter, and kind of still keeping it related to the garden or garden adjacent, as they say these days. I've got my Farley dog right here in case he pokes his little head up. So while I will get into garden planning and things like that, and kind of still get you out onto the property and see what's taking place in nature over the fall and winter. Uh-oh, we had a ball drop. There you go, buddy. I thought we could do a little bit of a series that we'll call Staying Cozy During the Winter or something like that. I'll come up with a name for it. And with each episode, we'll talk about something different. So this episode, I thought it might be fun to share with you guys some of the books that I'm going to read or reread, as the case may be, over the fall and winter. Most or all of these are related to gardening, nature, garden planning, things like that. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at these books. If you guys are as avid a reader as I am, then you might appreciate this. That's the thought anyway. And if you have any garden book recommendations of your own or nature related books, let me know. I'll be happy to take a look at those. This first one is called A Very Small Farm, and it is by William Paul Winchester. I got this years ago. Let me see, when was this published? This was published in 1996, first printing. So it's a little bit of an oldie, and it's been a while since I've read it. And by the way, I do try to utilize my library. We'll get back to this. If I'm thinking about a new book, if something's caught my eye, more often than not, I'll go ahead and check that book out from the library just to see if I like it or not before I buy it. And then I also do try to buy secondhand when I can, just to save some money. So this book, A Very Small Farm, is, I guess it's more of a memoir. It's been a while since I've read it. I'm looking forward to rereading it this winter. And if memory serves, this gentleman decided that he wanted to build his own farm and be as self-sufficient as possible. I'll read the back of it for you. In the tradition of Thoreau's Walden, William Paul Winchester offers a chronicle of everyday life on Southwind, his farm of 20 acres. As a subsistence farmer, he builds his own house and barn, puts in a garden and an orchard, acquires a milk cow, and takes up beekeeping. So he talks about the whole routine and rhythm of life on this very hardworking farm, where I think that he's doing pretty much everything himself, but he has very little needs outside of what his farm can provide. So it's really, really an interesting and fun read on the whole concept of self-sufficiency. And I wouldn't call him like a prepper. I mean, it's not in that vein. It's more of just a man who decided he wanted to live off the land and be as self-sufficient as possible. And he kind of breaks it down into, like, it sort of follows like a diary in a way. There's different entries for each day. And I'm just forgetting, it has been quite a while since I've read it. I'm kind of just getting a lot of it, but some of it's coming back to me. So I'm looking very forward to reading that. So that one is A Very Small Farm. And next we have, this one is kind of similar, and also in that vein. It's been a while since I've read it. It's called Woodswoman, and it's by Anne LaBastille. Woodswoman, living alone in the Adirondack wilderness. So it's a little bit different. She doesn't have a farm per se, but she still is self-sufficient. I don't know if she's as self-sufficient as Mr. Winchester, but she lives on her own with her dog. And I have forgotten a lot of the details of this, but she's hardworking, and she talks about a little bit of her history leading up to how she became a woodswoman. I do remember reading this, getting so inspired, like, oh, I just want to be like her and do this, and then realize that I am not cut out for this kind of life. She has faced some real hardships in her existence, living off grid, living in definitely in the wilderness. It's not a farm. She's definitely living in the wilderness, looking after her own needs in like a very small cabin, I think. Um, Really good, really good. So I recommend that. This might be the perfect book to read if you like nature, uh, memoirs, people who are out there doing it, making this happen. That's going to be a good winter read. And the next two are kind of fun. So in 2024, I bought Llewellyn's Herbal Almanac. I hadn't heard of it before, and I think I saw it at a bookshop when we were traveling and got it. And I really enjoyed it. Apparently, they do this every they put one out every year. And there's sections on growing and gathering, cooking, health and beauty, DIY and crafts, plant profiles, very helpful, and gardening resources. Kind of put that up there. And to give you an idea of the kind of article, so within each of those categories, it's broken down into articles. So let me find one or a couple just to kind of share with you what you might expect. This was really fun to read, and this is one I didn't read cover to cover. I kind of like plopped around in the book here and there as particular topics caught my eye. So for instance, one of the articles is called Herbal Remedies for Better Sleep. So you might find things like that. And then before that, let's see, this was interesting. It was an article on pollen. And there's a whole section called Cooking with Herbs and Spices. It talks about, oh gosh, so many of the herbs. It looks like it covers almost everything. And what flavor pairings it goes with, such as rosemary, roasted red meats, potato dishes, and grilled foods. And it also includes what some of the health benefits are. For instance, for rosemary, stimulates circulation, may stimulate the adrenal glands, elevates mood, and may benefit depression. So it's in a little table format. I thought this was so fun and so helpful that I looked for the 2025 edition, and I already bought it. I really loved reading it. This is one of those books that I pop in my backpack often when I'm out and about. If there's any time, like at work, if I'm on lunch break or something, I can pull this book out and read just a short little 3-page article, or look up something about a particular herb or something like that. Or if you're sitting in a waiting room somewhere, this is the perfect kind of book for that situation, because you don't have to get like too engrossed in it or too involved. Another thing that's interesting, they do planting by the moon, which is a thing. I learned about that several years back. I don't follow that per se. I don't believe in it or not believe in it. I haven't looked into it enough to know whether it sounds legit to me, but I know it is a thing. Like a lot of people believe in it, planting by the moon, and it's supposed to offer certain benefits depending on what you're planting and what phase of the moon. So there is a little bit of astrology in here. So take that for what it's worth, whether you're into that or not. In the 2025 edition, I haven't read any of this yet. Just browsing through right now, I found an article called Aromatic Fires. So that sounds intriguing. Perfect little bites. You can read it in bits and pieces, take little bites out of it, snippets, if you will. And I've got one more to share with you guys. This is a good book. I haven't delved too much into it. I just got it maybe this year and I haven't poked around in it, but I definitely am going to. Called The Vegetable Gardener's Bible by Edward C. Smith. This is a big book, as you can see. It's pretty heavy. It's packed with information. And so I can't really give you a lot of information since I haven't read too much of it. But for instance, in the contents, part one is called From Seed to Harvest. It's all about planning, jump-starting, growing a self-sufficient garden, and enjoying the harvest. Part two is called The Healthy Garden, Above Ground, Below Ground. It talks about soil, compost, pests. And then part three, I think this is the biggest section, is called Plant Directory. There's an index of vegetables and herbs. So I think that this is going to be a wealth of information. And kind of like the Herbal Almanac, I don't know that this is one I would read cover to cover. If I want information about a particular vegetable or herb, then I could pop this out and look it up and read about it. There's a little section I just saw called Grow More in Less Space with Less Work. Raised beds equal less compacted soil. I think this is going to be really useful just as a reference book. And I'm pretty sure that this guy, Edward C. Smith, I've heard of him before. I think that he's pretty well known in the garden world. And his little bio on the back, I'll read it to you. It sounds interesting. Ed Smith says that if he can grow great vegetables in the tough conditions of northern Vermont, gardeners everywhere can be just as successful. In addition to writing this best-selling book, Smith is the author of The Vegetable Gardener's Container Bible and tends a 1,500 square foot garden filled with raspberries, blueberries, edible flowers, herbs, and nearly 100 vegetable varieties. So that looks really good. This is like a massive book. I keep feeling how heavy it is. So yeah, I'll find links to all those on Amazon if they're still available there, in case you're interested. As I said before, I definitely encourage you guys to check these out from your library if you can. I am such a huge library supporter. There are periods of time when I'm at the library every week, and that's not regular all year round, but I go through spurts where I'm at the library all the time. Then the last thing I wanted to share with you guys for reading material over the fall and winter are just simply the seed catalogs as they're coming in. This one is from Pine Tree. It's their 2025 catalog. And when I am doing serious seed buying, I tend to go to the companies, whether it's Pine Tree, Baker Creek, High Mowing. Those are just a few of my favorites. I really like browsing on their website, but there's something about getting these seed catalogs in the mail that kind of tells me, oh, it kind of gets me a little excited for next year. Although, if you've been hanging out with me this year, you may recall me saying that I am kind of going to take a break from vegetable growing next year on a large scale. I'm still going to do a few tomatoes and peppers and maybe a watermelon plant or two. By and large, it's going to be a year of rebuilding my garden for me. That is doing soil amendments, rebuilding some of the infrastructure, just kind of getting it back up to snuff. I feel like my whole infrastructure's kind of reached a state where it needs some serious rehab, and definitely the soil needs some work. And I need to finish building my deer fence. So that is kind of what 2025 is going to be for me. And it is going to be all I can do to restrain myself from ordering seeds. I think too, I had already decided that even if I do a big veggie garden next year, I am still not going to buy hardly any seeds because I have so many seeds already. And I save seeds. So I've got a lot of seeds that I've saved, and I am not hurting. I'm not lacking for want of seeds for sure. So either way, it's going to be tough, but I won't be placing any seed orders this year. Unless of course it's for some of the native plant efforts that I'm working on. But for vegetable seeds, I am going to, fingers crossed, stick to my will here, stick to my guns, and say I am not going to order vegetable seeds this year, or even herbs. I have enough herb seeds. I'll be fine. I will maybe look into some seeds for native plants to use around the landscape. That's going to be, other than getting my vegetable garden kind of back up to snuff, I'm going to focus really heavily on the landscaping out here and focus my efforts on continuing to plant with these native plants that we so desperately need and nature needs. So that's all I have to share with you guys today in this very first episode of working title is Staying Cozy This Winter, something like that. If you have suggestions for a title for this series, let me know. Put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear. And next video in this series, I think I'm going to share with you guys some of my favorite fall and winter recipes, some of which you might already have the produce to use with that you grew from your own garden. So I hope that sounds interesting. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that you enjoyed this. It's a little bit of a departure from the usual. Let me know your thoughts. If there's any cozy topics that you want me to cover this winter, let me know. I would love to hear about that. Take care.